YouTube. Good morning, my good people. We got a lot of college football to go over. A lot of college football. We got the college playoffs coming up this weekend. As you know, we had championship weekend last week. So this video, we're going to get into that Alabama Georgia game. And you know, this is my first year getting into the sports, and I'm getting to the history of the SEC, looking at Alabama Georgia rivalry, and all the things they got going on. And boy, is this ish crazy. Since 1992, 13 teams that have won the SEC title have gone on to win the national championship. Of the 90 SEC titles that have been won, Georgia and Alabama now have over half of them. They own 46 after this prior weekend. Last time these teams matched up in the SEC title game was in 2023, and in 2021 they gave us some great heat. In 2021. Alabama and Georgia met in the SEC title game. Alabama would win that game 41-24. But as you know, that I just recently found out, Georgia would get their revenge about 2 or 3 weeks later in the national title game. So going into this game, it was huge for Georgia to be able to stop Alabama on third down, right? The last time that Alabama Georgia played, Alabama was 13 for 18 on third downs, and they just could not get Alabama off the field. So going into this game, defense was the main focus, and defense is what Georgia did best. Alabama only scored 7 points, and that last touchdown was in the garbage time. Georgia was putting BTA to those Alabama Crimson Tide, which I'm not too mad about. I'm a huge SEC fan, so I want both teams to prosper. But Georgia really figured it out against this Alabama team, and that Georgia defense is on a whole new level. That Georgia defense held them to -3 rushing yards. -3 rushing yards. Let me repeat it. -3 rushing yards. Like, we all know that Alabama cannot run the ball, but -3 rushing yards. Like, did you got like that's insane. They had 16 rushing attempts and couldn't get positive yards. Georgia went into Mercedes-Benz Stadium and handled business. Kirby Smart, before this game, was really seeing ghosts against this Alabama team. Prior to this game, he was 1-7 against Alabama. The only win that he had was in that national title game. Yes, that's a very important win, but like, man, 1-7 against this Alabama Crimson Tide is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Bama and Georgia now. After that championship game, Bama and Alabama have 46 of the 90 games, and this was a tale of two coaches, right? Yes, Kirby Smart was seeing ghosts against that Alabama team, but Kirby Smart is very well versed against top 10 teams. So is Kellen DeBoer. Kellen DeBoer started in 2022, and he's currently 8-1 prior to that championship game against AP top 10, with his only loss coming to Michigan in the national title game in 2023. Kirby Smart is second in the win percentage at 11-4, with 3 of those losses coming to Alabama. His Kirby Smart's overall record since joining Georgia against top 10 teams is 19-7, with 6 of those losses coming to Alabama. So prior to this game, Alabama had won 11 of the last 15 championship appearances, right? They're 11 for 16 now. So Alabama really knows how to go into a championship game and handle business. But Kirby Smart had him and his boys ultimately prepared. So it's safe to say that the history that we just went over, what it means is greatness. From both these teams to meet in the SEC playoff. Georgia's on a whole new level this year. They're making a play to make a deep run into the playoffs. Georgia held Ty Simpson to below 50% completion rate. They held Bama to -3 rushing yards. At halftime, Bama would only have 71 yards of offense. Only 71. They finished with about 200 yards of total offense. Bama was only 3 of 14 on third down. So, looks like I said earlier, prior to this game, the last time Alabama Georgia played, they were 13 for 19. Georgia went in there and definitely handled business, right? The tale of this game was all in defense, right? We know Georgia can score, we know Alabama can score. It was what team is going to show up on defense and make stops and get plays done on the other end of the field, right? Georgia on third downs, they were 6 for 16. They had 300 yards of offense. They only had 90 more yards of offense, but Georgia was able to continuously get stops. Ty Simpson would end up throwing an interception in this game, and I just did not see a breakdown on defense from that Georgia defense, right? Like every time Georgia defense was on the field, they knew exactly what they're doing. They knew exactly what coverage they wanted to get into, and they knew exactly what needed to get done to win this football game. So the Georgia defenders were all over the place. All over the place. They were flying to the ball. They were making sure they didn't have a lot of yards after catch. Like it was just absolutely insane. How many sacks did Georgia have this game? Let's see. They had 3 sacks this game. They had 4 tackles for loss, and that Georgia defense, man, I am nervous for any team that has to play against that Georgia defense, right? Like it's going to be an absolute show for this college playoffs with Georgia. As you know, Georgia is going to face the winner of Tulane and Ole Miss. I'm going to break down the college playoffs a little bit later in this week when I upload the next video. But just to kind of give you guys a preview, I think Georgia is going to have an easy time that first go round. They already beat Ole Miss earlier this year, and their defense was not playing out of their mind, right? It was a shootout in that Georgia Ole Miss game. I believe the score was 38-42 or something like that. And Georgia just was rolling on offense, and Georgia's defense got 2 stops to end the game that they played Ole Miss. So it's going to be an absolute show. Their defense is on a whole nother level, so I see them really putting BTA to that Ole Miss team, especially because they don't have Lane Kiffin anymore. And yes, Tulane is in the playoffs, but I don't see them holding a candle to this Georgia team, right? They don't have the stars. They don't have the head coaching. They don't have the receivers, the defense that any of this Georgia team has. So whether it's Tulane, whether it's Ole Miss, I think Georgia has a cakewalk that first round of the playoffs. But we'll get into a deeper breakdown of what the college playoffs looks like either tomorrow or the following day. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. It'll be college football year round. I'm going to dibble and dabble in the NBA once the college football scene kind of gets out of the way after the new year. So we got a lot of stuff going on. We got a lot of stuff planned. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Until the next one.